Ladonna.
Hey, Angie.
How's it going?
Good. How was your
Oh,
week?
oh my gosh. I have had like the weirdest week. So I do have a funny story. How was your week? Do you want me to tell you my funny story?
I would love to hear your funny story.
Okay, I know last time you had a really great story about the mini pad. This one is not as funny as that one, but this is pretty funny. So you know how, as a sales rep, you're trying to get in with executives or customers, but a lot of times they have EAs or executive assistants or admins. Well, I spend the majority of my time talking to a lot of admins because I'm coordinating schedules, travel, emails, all the things to get in to meet the executives, right? So this last week was really interesting because I've been working for weeks to meet with this customer. We're going to call him Bob. And Bob's been so busy. And so I've been working with his EA duty. And I'm talking to her all the time, making small talk, weather, etc., while we're having all these conversations over a few weeks. So finally, I get this meeting with Bob, and I'm so excited. It's on the calendar. I prep, get my face on, hair, makeup, on camera, ready to go. And as soon as I kick start Zoom, I see someone join, and I said, "Hi, Judy. I'm so excited to finally meet you." And I look up, and it's Bob. It's not even Judy. I completely got confused because I'm only talking to Judy, and I've never really spoken to Bob. So when his face popped on, all I could think about was Judy. And so he just looked at me with kind of this blank stare and said, "I'm not Judy. I'm Bob." I said, "I see that." I said, "Hi, nice to meet you, Bob." And then I clarified by saying how I always just usually talk to Judy. So she was just fresh in my head. And he said that that does happen occasionally. So I didn't feel quite so bad. But yeah. So that was my
That's so
funny story
funny.
for the week. I don't know
Yeah,
if
I
that ever
love that.
happens to you with EAs or admins, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's
less
crazy.
because I do not as much, but I can see how that could happen, and that's hilarious, right? You're like, oh,
It
hey,
was so
sorry.
funny. I was so
Apologies,
mortified.
Bob.
I was so embarrassed. And then you're on camera, so your embarrassment like shows. I was like really wide eyed, like, "Oh, hi, Bob." It was like, yeah, deer in headlights. But I got over it
That's
really
funny.
quickly. That's where we
That's
pivoted,
funny.
right? Well, I'm excited.
Mhm.
This is Sales Sheroes episode number 3. I'm so excited about this topic. We're going to be talking about mindset and mindset mastery as it pertains to sales reps. So, yeah. So, first of all, everybody, welcome to this episode. Well, Donna, let's talk about understanding mindset and what that really means.
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, the importance of mindset in sales is so critical. The importance of mindset in general is really critical, but really, when it relates to sales, doing constant evolution and staying committed to constant evolution of your mindset is so critical. I mean, last week we had an ice storm. We've recorded this already, but we just couldn't get it to record properly because of internet. So last week in Lane County, where I live, we had ice storms. We tried to record. My internet was out. It was very spotty, and we just said, let's scratch this till next week and let's just make a pivot. And if my mindset wasn't in a healthy space, it would have been really challenging last week. It was challenging, but my career, my life that I do for
Right.
my income is sales. I would have been lost because I had to pivot everything. I had to cancel all of my meetings. I had
Right.
to move meetings to future dates. I had to forego samples getting here because they were stuck in transit. So if my mindset wasn't at the max capacity and I wasn't constantly working on that, I would have been frantic and probably not been real happy, right? Not be
Yeah.
real healthy. So it's really important to continually be working on that, like, and in my understanding and my belief and my feeling about sales mindset is that it really what does that mean to me? It's being positive, it's being proactive, it's being persistent, being able to be resilient, being empathetic, because it's really
Mm.
important to be able to understand our clients in order to serve our clients better. Being focused and really creating value for my customers is kind of
Yeah.
what I look at as what a sales mindset means. What about you, Ange?
Yeah. I'm kind of right there with you. Definitely when it comes to the mindset, if in sales, that's what kind of leads us, right? How you're acting today. Are you focused? Are you to get the tasks done? So for me, it's definitely all the positive qualities that you need to have. to make your customers' lives better, right? So that's the authentic relationships, being able to offer value to them, listening, really leading in with curiosity with to your customers. So for me, I have to be on a good positive mindset to be able to do those things so that I can actually make a difference for them. So it's very
Right.
important in the sales world.
Right. And there's just a psychology behind it. So for me, successful selling really is that having confidence, resilience, and empathy. So building trust is really important. Really being observant, like I had chatted about. How do you feel about that piece, like the empathy piece and the like? Do you go into your calls with open-ended questions? Like, kind of how do you treat that piece, the psychology of being a successful salesperson?
Yeah, you definitely have to be resilient. And this is where the mindset is
Mm-hmm.
extremely powerful. And there was a lot of years where I didn't focus on my mindset. I just went in, I had a product to sell, I went to you and I sold it and I moved on. And without
Mm-hmm.
thinking through the process of, you know, okay, let's be empathetic to our customers. Do they really need this product, right? Like if you're trying to sell something that they don't need, they're not going to be as receptive and you're going to have that rejection. And then you have, confidence issues. So you really have to put the psychology behind it as well when it comes to that. So I think you're spot on. Confidence, resilience, empathy, those are the things that you're going to have to lead with. And so working on the mindset of selling, which there's a ton of books out there. We'll share some later on, but working on the mindset is crucial to keep you sharp in your confidence, in being able to be resilient and being able to have empathy for them. Absolutely.
Yeah, and for me to keep my mindset in a strong place, I have to really have some key goals moving forward,
Hmm.
and not just numbers metrics, but like in relation to the dollar volume. I do obviously have goals. I have learned how to write a business plan for the year. I work for a corporation, so I mean I have target numbers, and I'm expected to meet those target numbers, or at least be making an attempt and then reevaluating. So for me personally, though, in order to keep my mindset, I'm not driven by numbers. I'm more driven by like communication and fun and interaction and
Yeah.
engagement with my clients. And so I have to set some like kind of smaller scale numbers. Like every week, I make it a point to make 21 connections during the week. And for some people, that might seem small. For some people, that seems like a really elevated number. For me, that just keeps me flatlined. Some weeks I do a lot more than that. Occasionally, I fall below that. I
Right.
make that a point to be front facing, like with my clients, because I can be. But when I can't be, those 21 visits, maybe an email or a follow up on a sample request. But it's really having clear goals, like really clear goals set out so that I can effectively manage my time and then
Hmm.
really look at strategic planning because I cover an entire state for a manufacturer. In the past, I had worked for a similar, same kind of manufacturer, but there were three for just my brand in the state, three of
Right.
us, three reps. For me, it's just me for my brand. So I cover rural territories, I cover major metros, I cover architects and designers, cover end users, I also cover dealers. I'm selling to floor covering dealers. And
Hmm.
so I have to be really specific about strategy for that, or I would just spin my wheels and be all over the place and never turn a sale because I'm
Right.
not focused. And so, in order to have a strong sales mindset, you have to have clear goals spelled
Yeah.
out. And if you don't have someone to help you do that, find a mentor in that area and
Hmm.
really work on that because my confidence in everything, having strong confidence is the key. Like if you're working on your mindset, you know what you need to do to achieve something, and you really have that spelled out. Find a mentor to help you with that because when you don't,
Yeah.
then you lack confidence, and then it makes it a lot more challenging to actually serve your clients to get a result for them that will
Mhm.
end up equaling financial reward for you.
Totally. And I think the goal setting is that definitely should be number one because, and you can have your metrics that your company gives you no matter what you're selling. Your company's giving you a metric. You have a product, you have to sell it, and you're here to make this amount of money. So you can have that. But I think the point of having the goal as well of, okay, even if I'm just doing one email today or one phone call today, we have life that happens and the psychology behind it, right? You have to incorporate your personal life, professional life all in one. Everyone's remote. Most everyone's remote workers. So they've got all these side distractions. And so even if your goal is to just do one phone call, one email every day for a week, start there. But working with a mentor, I think, really will help that. You can even Google how to set proper sales goals, right? And just
Yeah.
do something more basic like that. But if you have to have something that's going to give you a path for the action, because if you don't have
Yes.
any action, you're not going to have any results. And as sales reps, we can be complacent. A lot of us work remote. We're in the home. We can get distracted. So we need something that's going to keep us on track. So that bringing that mindset in every single time, and focusing on, okay, like I was sticking it with my goals on it for the year. Like, here's the quota I got.
Hmm.
Here's what I need to achieve. I walk my number back to how many things I need to do this week, this day to be successful to make that number. And it starts there. That's not the end all be all of what we'll share today, but that's definitely a start to the kind of metrics of what you should be doing.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I want to just touch on something because you said you write it down, you have your number.
Mhm.
Visualization for your number is so important. And so just like in thinking about that, like Angie said, she has that on a post-it note. I have a journal that I do every morning. And so in my journal, one of the metrics that gets written into my visualization piece, because I have a piece that's on like visualization, like where I'm going, what direction I'm taking my life. And around my sales numbers, that target number is a part of that visualization every morning
Right.
when I do my journaling. And that's important because that's that
Yeah.
law of attraction and bringing that into your life. And so I'm communicating that number out. It's in my prayer. It's a very big piece of my kind of daily focus without it being the core focus, because the core
Right.
focus is always for me serving my clients. And as long as you're measuring a metric of at least seeing your a accounts, B accounts, C accounts at a time frame that works for you to move the needle on helping and serving them, then you'll start to reach those goals. So super important. Overcoming rejection and staying motivated is
Mhm.
really key also, because
Yeah.
we get told no a lot in sales, and that's not a reflection of your worth. It just may not be the right time for them to purchase. They may not have a need. You may not have uncovered enough of a need for that client.
Right.
So just really being realistic, one, about the goals and the strategy that you take, making pivots in those areas when you need to. But this one's a big one for me in staying motivated, because motivation's kind of BS, right? Like, we aren't
Right.
always motivated. We have different
Oh,
seasons in our life where we're really motivated, like things are going well, and we have seasons in our life where they may not
we have
be
to force
going as
ourselves to
well.
be motivated.
Yeah, yes, you have to find the carrots that work for you. And I think that this
Hmm.
is really different for each of us. So I don't think that there's one thing that works specifically for each individual. Like,
No.
I love giving myself something that I'm looking forward to at the end of each quarter. I love giving myself like the reward of spending time, one, with my husband, but also like my girlfriends. Like, I have a trip coming
Right.
up that I'm going to Bandon with my girlfriend Tammy. I have a trip coming up that I'm going with another girlfriend who I also work with, to Depot Bay. Like, those are carrots for me. I know I'm
Right.
working to be able to support those fun things, and then celebrating small wins also. Like, I knew someone in the network marketing space who really celebrated her wins by giving herself a cupcake at the end of the week. She would go on
See,
Fridays,
that's
and
perfect.
isn't that, it's very sweet. I love that.
Yes.
She would go, she's now a multi-million dollar earner in that space also, like, knocked it out of the park. She's doing coaching. Like,
Yeah.
she is a very successful woman in that space. And she just motivated herself every week to reach those goals that she had set out for
Right.
herself, sticking with her strategy. And then if she did it, she gave herself a cupcake at the end of the week. So you
That's
have to
brilliant
find
because
those
you
intrinsic motivators.
yes, you absolutely do. And I think touching on your point of rejection, I mean, sales, you're going to get told a million times. And I think the reason why having a strong mindset in sales comes into play is I always have taken it personal. I've always taken a no personal when they didn't need my product or the timing was wrong or they're not going to have a meeting with me. What did I do? What did I say? Am I wearing the right thing? Do I look the part? I started getting into my head about that, and then that was completely self sabotaging myself. And I think that's kind of where we have to learn the art of rejection and not be afraid of the no. And so there's a lot of books
Yeah.
out there and a lot of podcasts out there about, hey, get 7 no's. I have my own personal thing is if someone tells me no, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going for 6 more no's. And I sometimes make it a joke with my customers if they have a good sense of humor. I'm like, okay, Bob, well, that was 4 no's. My goal is 7. And then they kind of joke around it with me. And then by the time I get to 7, I'm like, Bob, this is my last one. Are you really going to tell me no? Or are you going to finally hear me out? And I think it's all about that mindset. It's hard to get where we are. We've done a lot of work around being able to accept the rejection or accept the no,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to
Mhm.
sales, when keeping your lights on is contingent upon you, Bob, buying from you. And so there's a lot of
Yeah.
fear selling around that. And so being able to celebrate the wins on your goals, even if it's just not the sale closing, but I achieved all of the output of work that I needed to do. And so I'm going to get a cupcake. I'm going to go with my friends. I'm going to have that moment because if you don't separate and reward yourselves with those little wins, you're just going to start resenting the job that you want to be doing. Because
Mhm.
let's face it, if you're in sales and you power through, you can be very successful financially. I mean, it's one of the fastest growing um, careers for people that either have little to no experience. And so, I mean, we know people that are making multi millions of dollars a year on their multi level marketing sales organizations. Now, that's not
Yes.
everyone can do that, obviously, or we'd all be having the yacht and the house on the beach. But it's the perseverance that comes with the mindset. And you don't have a good
Yeah.
mindset, you can't persevere. But we had to learn how to do that through personal development, right? So, yeah, I
Yes.
wanted to make sure
Yeah,
to
and
touch on that rejection piece.
yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. Adaptability is another really strong focus, that really working on mindset mastery. So I just want to say this too: is that it's a constant process of working on your mindset. Like you may be really successful in one area where you're really challenged in another area, and if you're working on mastering your mindset every day, like little, just a little bit, like whether it be that you get into the car and you listen to an audible, or you just think about this as like we should always be learning and growing as human beings.
Yeah,
That's just a piece of being an evolving human. Times change, so we have to be adaptable, and we have to be able to respond to changing market trends and changing needs of our clients. So for me, a few, like, I took some time off during COVID. I was transitioning into kind of a different space. I had gone from corporate sales into both corporate and network marketing, to just network marketing, to some coaching. And then my mom and dad had some failing health issues. And so I started helping my parents more. So I took some time away from my career while my husband carried us financially. So I had to be really adaptable during that time. But what I watched during that time, I had a little bit more time to be paying attention to things. During
hmm
that time of COVID, I watched so many businesses
yeah,
that even failed because they didn't adapt to the changing
right,
need of the market. It was a massive pandemic that we were not prepared for. And
right.
so
No,
are you ready to make a pivot when something changes in the market, when something changes with your customers' needs, when
hmm
a product maybe isn't performing well enough and so your company pulls it? Like, are you aware, are you paying attention to the things that could possibly be changing? And where do you pay attention to those things? Like,
yeah,
I subscribe to the Portland Business Journal because that's a really easy place for me to glean market trends and market
right,
information about the Portland metro market, which is a major place of my sales territory. Am I paying attention to my customers' needs? I do that via LinkedIn, through other sales
right,
reps, through Floor Focus magazine, through participating in industry organizations. Like for me, it's IIDA and IFMA. One's facilities managers, one is for designers. Like you have to really
right.
be adaptable and be able to make pivots quickly. And if you're not
hmm
working on having a strong mindset and you're not putting that into place to have a strong mindset, that's where you'll get kicked in the shin and you might lose big
Yeah,
chunks of time trying to make those pivots.
exactly. And pivoting is key because of the fact everything has changed post COVID. How we are selling has completely changed. Back in the day, I used to go on site, bring donuts. I could get my time with my customer. We are literally in the digital age of selling. Social selling is the way it is. And so, and then our capacity, not our capacity, our customers' capacity, hundreds of emails a day they're getting, hundreds of text messages, phone calls, all of this stuff coming at all of us every second of every day. So to be a good positive seller, you have to pivot, you have to adapt to the changes, and
Mhm.
go, okay, how can I get connected to Bob and be different than everybody else that's just sending him an email? And we talked about a little bit of that on the networking piece, that we had, and you brought that up too. Pivoting to the market trends, checking out whatever industry or vertical you're in. Is there a publication about it? Is there one for your area? Looking at LinkedIn, those are helpful. You can actually set Google Trends. If you haven't done this yet, you can Google how to set trends so you can start getting Google notices on certain companies that you're interested in selling to and see if they're buying, they're selling, they're laying people off. You can do that also for your vertical. So there's a lot of information out there, but adaptability is key. And if your mindset isn't strong, you're just, I've done it. So there's no judgment to our listeners out there. When my mindset wasn't strong, I just would be like, meh, well, I'm just going to see what's on TV. And then next, I wasted an entire half of a day doing nothing
Mhm.
productive because my mind wasn't strong enough to say, get back in the game. You're going to
Mhm.
fail. You got to keep going. And I think that's the thing too, is the first year in sales is always the hardest. I don't care what you're selling. It is the hardest,
Mhm.
and most people do not stick it out. They don't. They're like, "This isn't working. It's not for me," because you're putting your reward before your work in sales. I just want that paycheck. I need that commission. Yes, you need that. I get it. Trust me. But when you lean into that first, it's not going to happen. You have to lean in with your customer first, and making sure that your foundation of selling is good. I mean, you might be selling
Yeah.
incorrectly or be offending people by just being brass or something. So I think it's important to make sure that that foundational piece is there. So yeah, you don't.
Yeah.
But for the most part, first year in selling. And I would love to get a poll out there of how many people are in their first year selling, and is it harder now? Because we've learned before the digital age. We learned when we got to go see
Mhm.
people. But now selling
Mhm.
in the digital age, I really want to have the conversation, and we'll have some people on. What are you facing? What
Mhm.
challenges are so different? Because that's your first starting of your career that way. We at least have the fundamental background of selling in the 80s and 90s before all of that. But the people today are
Yeah.
like, all we are doing is digital age. So, yeah, that'll be another topic for us to talk about for sure. How to set yourself apart.
Well, yeah, for sure. And that's where continuous learning comes into play. So if you are someone who hasn't done any work as a sales rep on how to also be putting your product forward digitally and branding, doing some personal branding, that's something that I feel is really important. And I watch a lot of corporate salespeople kind of missing the boat on that. Like,
Hmm.
uh, only sharing product, only sharing company name, only sharing representing the company in a really strong way, but not
Right.
showing up authentically as who you are to be able to bridge that know like trust factor online, because it's very different. Like I can in person, I mean, people can feel my authentic energy in person very differently than they can feel that online.
Right.
So how do I bring that? Like that's a really strong suit for me,
Hmm.
right? Like I love people, I love connection. I'm quick to connect with the people that are aligned with me. And online you have to show up a little differently to be able to showcase that. So are you paying attention to that? Are you continuously putting yourself forward by doing learning, keeping up with product knowledge, and keeping up with the latest sales techniques? Because
Yeah.
really, to sell now, you have to learn how to use the digital
Right.
platforms to be able to meet your customers where they are to serve that need, right? And to make it easier
Mhm.
for them. Because as Angie said, they're getting tons of emails all the time. How can you simplify their life? What do you have that can answer to a need that they have? And how are you showcasing that online as well as front facing? And so for me, I love Audible. I love podcasts. I love, the new like using being able to use AI. Like I know a lot of people are afraid of
Mhm.
that, but I do like to check in with it. I don't always use all of the content from that, but it will
Right.
be sometimes a starting point for me because it's
Hmm.
not my authentic voice. And so I have to infuse my voice in there as well. And use discernment. That's the other thing, like if you're listening to a podcast and it doesn't feel like it's hitting, you're not in school. You don't
Oh yeah.
have to force yourself through. Like in school,
No.
we were having to take all the information. We weren't taught, like, traditional schooling doesn't teach you to use discernment. In sales, use
Right.
discernment, especially with how much information is out there. Like you find people you're aligned with that are aligned with your value proposition. Um, and then search those things and find people that resonate for you and then put things into action, and when they work, keep them, and when they don't work, throw them away, like
Right.
period. Like get rid of it. Trash out. Like
Yeah.
there's no
And I
reason to
think it's,
carry it
and we
forward.
talked about that a little bit last week too. It's okay to walk away from, if you're trying to listen or be better about something and it's not resonating with you, it's okay to adapt and pivot and walk away from it. It's not
Yeah.
for everybody, right? And I think that's the most important thing, is being able to give yourself grace in selling. We have so many metrics around selling. I don't care what you're selling, if it's
Mm.
MLM, corporate, your own personal business, you have your financial metrics that you need to meet. That is stressful enough, right? So let's figure out how we can focus on that piece of it, as well as, okay, but I still need to be me. I don't want to just be pushy, pushy, pushy. I want to go ahead and just practice, being me. And that kind of brings us into stress management around the mindfulness and of selling. What do you do to kind of
Yeah.
release your stress from all of the selling when things get a little crazy?
Yeah, well, I've created some really strong habit loops for myself. My family and I, a number of years ago, during the pandemic, we all did 75 hard together, and
Ooh, I
it
remember
is
that. You asked me to
75.
do that. I
Oh
said
yeah,
no.
it's crazy. It's hard.
I think I got to like day 26 or something.
It is the hardest thing I've ever done. And what I did recognize about that, and I've put some of those things, like, okay, so what I did recognize is that that's, you have a day where you quit, like most of us do. We have a turning point. We'll do really good for a set amount of time. I'm like literally like 10 to 15 days. I'm great at something for 10 to 15 days, and then I get super bored and I'm done with it. So when we got
Yeah.
to day 10, day 15, I was like, yeah, this outside, and we did it during the
In the
holidays. Like
winter.
we're in the winter in Oregon, I set this task of doing 1 mile outside every single day. Well, I'll tell you, I did 1 mile every day
You
outside
did.
during the winter in Oregon. It just teaches you a different level of not quitting. Like it
Right.
really, like it was one of the best things I've ever done for myself, because what it did, I will probably never do it again. I'm gonna be honest about that. Like
Yeah.
I have thought about it and then been like, no, 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 no. But what I do is I'll go, okay, this one thing, I'm gonna really focus on this for this many, like this set amount of time for me. 31 days, and I can make something a habit for me personally. And I know there's
Yeah.
lots of science behind like forming habits, and there's lots of information about it. I think we're all individuals and it works a little differently for each of us. But for me, like, so I have like some very strong habits that stuck from doing that. And for me, it's my morning routine. And it's not 5 a.m. every morning because I need
Right.
sleep. And so I don't start every morning at 5 a.m., but I do start every morning really pretty much the same way. I don't pick my phone up first. I turn my alarm off. I pick up my journal. I write my gratitudes in present tense, future tense, with a real strong emphasis on appreciation. Because when you're
Right.
appreciating things, there's no resistance in appreciation. And so sometimes when I write my gratitudes, especially the future ones, like if I don't have it yet, there may be some resistance there. So I'll focus more on like kind of what the feeling of appreciation would feel
Yeah.
like if I actually had that. So I have a really strong morning routine. It's my I am statements, my gratitudes, my visualization. And then every single day I do at least 1 mile a day, whether it be that I run over to the gym that's close to my house, or when I'm in my home in Portland, I have a rower. So
Hmm.
I do the equivalent of a mile walk on the rower. So I just, every day I'm moving my body. So I'm starting my day with my morning mindset before I pick my phone up. I'm doing those
Yeah.
gratitudes. I'm doing that I am statements, and then I'm getting in at least 1 mile a day. And what I learned for me in that activity piece is that I'll go really hard for 5 days and then I quit because I went so hard. I don't do that to
Right.
myself anymore around physical
No.
health. If I can move for 1 mile a day, that's great. There are many days where I add in some weight training,
Right.
like other things. I'm doing more than just the mile, but I don't beat myself up when I don't do more than just the mile, but I don't let myself
Right.
off the hook for the mile. And so I've cultivated some habits around that really have stuck for me. Um, and they just are non-negotiables. They just happen
Would
every
yeah.
day. I
And they
just
have
don't
to
allow
be.
myself. Yeah. And
They
then my
have to
and
be. And
then
I
my journal, sorry, just and then one other thing is like spiritual practice is really important. And I'm not here to tell you what your spiritual practice needs to be. For me, it's Bible reading, and it's doing my daily devotional. It's quick,
mhm.
even if it's just the quick 1 page out of my daily devotional that I do. That is a piece of that morning routine that has to happen for me.
Yeah, and I think that's important too. I'm not a morning person at all. And so I'm always excited about when I talk to you in the day and you're like, "Oh, I got up this time and I got all this stuff done." And I thought, "Oh my gosh, I did two things to her eight." Right? And there's that comparing syndrome again. But it's definitely been a habit to learn how to set the alarm for I started 30 minutes early and then it became an hour earlier to just get in the gratitudes. The I am statements are huge. Have a lot of confidence issues, believe it or not, sometimes. And so those affirmations around, I am good at this or I am this, those are powerful. And I think that starting your day with that is like setting the tone for how you're going to talk to yourself, right? And help that confidence level. So gratitudes, affirmations, prayer, stretching for me, I'm with you on that one for sure. Try to get in
Mm-hmm.
exercise every single day. And then when I'm stressed out during the rest of the day, I stop and do yoga stretching. Pac Man's my go to thing. I have a Pac Man machine in my house. Anything that can take your mind off of the focus of the selling part, the stress of selling, whether that's the rejection, the customer, your corporate agency, your metric number, just pause that. Like just put it on hold, put the mute button on because you have to come back to who you are. And so I think that really helps the mental piece of the stress management. We have to be able to have that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
But
speaking to that with
you were spot on
mindfulness
with the
and
balancing ambition with the mental well-being you said a minute ago. That is
yeah,
key. That literally we're going to highlight that because you have to be able to
yeah.
balance your ambition with your mental well-being.
Soft ambition. I read this recently and I really love that. It's really been sticking for me is that we've always been in this culture of hustle. My kids
Hmm.
were always really overcommitted to sports. One had a horse. Like we were always real. I kept my kids busy. I was kind of trained as a mom that that's what you do. You keep them so busy that they don't have time to be focused on anything
But
but
they
being
can't get in
busy. But
trouble.
we, yeah, they can't get in trouble. But also, I didn't cultivate enough playtime in there, right? Like it was always
Right.
hustle culture. I was a single mom before I met my amazing husband. And so it was like I was their sole means of support. I didn't have child support. I just set myself up in not the best way right there. But I was the main supporter of my
Yeah.
family. And so being in that hustle culture was like I had to retrain my mind when I took the time off to care for my parents and take a break from sales. I really worked on changing my mindset. And someone had said this recently, instead of looking at things like hustle and grind, look at things as soft ambition. And I really like
Yes.
that. That just resonates for me, soft ambition versus hustle. And so how
Hmm.
do you stay true to that? So for me, it's like knowing what my priorities are. And I like to chunk it down into 5 different topics. I take spiritual, physical, my finances, my business, and my personal life. And in each of those 5 areas, I have one thing that I'm always working on evolving and growing, just one thing in each of the five
Yeah.
areas. And then I really assess on Sundays. I take the time to look at my week and I look at each of those areas. I have it written in the front of my journal, the things I'm evolving in my spirituality, the one thing I'm evolving in with my physical health. How did I do during the week? Did I reach those metrics to get to the next level and evolve in that area? And I make adjustments where I need to make adjustments. And for me, generally, it's my personal relationships is where I
Hmm.
miss, right? And then that's when I'll sit
Right.
down and I'll schedule time with my girlfriends. I got to see Angie tomorrow. I schedule that time and it goes on my planner so that I'm making sure that my personal relationships are as because they are as more
Yeah.
valuable than my business to me,
Well, that's
right? Like,
refilling our cup, right? That's refilling our cup. That's
yes.
also a piece of sales is networking. You have to make time to see the people in your personal life because you're going to always be networking.
Yeah. And then
So
another
that's it.
piece, it's huge. And then another piece of that is just really knowing your values. Like if you know what your what your values are, if you know, like I have six pretty strong values that I know that are really important and integral to me doing sales and to be living my life to the best of my ability. And it makes it easy for me to stay focused on my mindfulness and my mental health to be able to provide the best for my clients
Right.
when I say no to things that aren't aligned with my values, and it makes it
Right.
easy to set boundaries, right? Because we need to set boundaries in sales. Also, I could
Right.
work all the time. It's always on my phone. It's always
Hmm.
accessible to me. So I have to have those turn off points where I'm not working, where I'm not picking up my work phone, and I'm not paying attention to that because I'm
Right.
paying attention to my husband or I'm paying attention to my family, right? Like I
Yeah,
could work all the
totally.
time. I'm great at that, but I have to set boundaries around that. What about you?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think for folks out there, like listen, you should totally have lofty goals, but you need to be able to know how to manage the path to get there realistically, or you will completely fizzle out and you won't look back.
Yeah.
And sales can be such a beautiful career to be in because it gives you so much flexibility and the ability to make income that you didn't think you could, building relationships and networks. So, I mean, I was completely overstressed, not putting my well being first at all, and it completely affected every aspect of my life. My relationships were fizzling out. My health started to deteriorate. I just wasn't my best for me to be my best for them. And so I really feel like people, what I've learned is you don't have to compromise one thing for another. You can have the balance, right? You can set
True.
aside time for relaxation and engaging with your hobbies and eating well and exercising and prioritizing your mental health. You can do that. And everyone, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. So, I know Ed Mylett, who we love, Ed Mylett, big shout out to him, is he talks about the 24 hours in a day and doing one more thing. If you're listening to podcasts for of people that can help your mindset on things like that, you start dripping in a little bit of their stuff into your life, and that's what I did with him, with Ed. Is I
Yeah.
definitely dripped in some of what he had to say in his latest book into my life, and that's helped me feel like I don't have any more hours in the day than you, but I'm just reprioritizing it different than the grind, 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 and making sure that we're on the. I mean, my family nicked up me, gotta go. I was always on the go, on the go, on the go. Now that I'm getting
Yeah.
older, it's like, why was I like that? I didn't serve anyone. And the people important to me, myself and my daughter, were the ones least served by that mindset of go, 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 go. Right. Luckily, she's
Yeah.
grown to a beautiful psych degree major today, but it still is just like, I look back going, okay, if I would have known now then, the path might have been a little bit easier, right? To prioritize that through.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, really. And just to kind of recap, I mean, really make it a
Yeah.
priority. That's the one thing. Use discernment, process, evaluate, leave it. If it doesn't feel like it's for you, really work on growing your mindset because confidence, clarity, and consistency are the three C's in sales that are so
Hmm.
necessary to be able to evolve and grow and knock your numbers out of the park, right? Because you can
Yeah,
do that while also
absolutely.
having peace in your life. So just make yourself a priority, make your mindset a priority. It's more valuable in sales than I feel like we often talk about in corporate sales. And so it's
Right.
something that I really want to put forward as we're sharing because this podcast was intended to help women in sales really win their week, really champion
Hmm.
women in what they're doing. And mindset is a crucial piece to being able to be evolved as a human being and just be happy and peaceful and joyous in your journey. So
Yeah.
that's really all I had for
It's
the week.
taken
Ange,
us
do
a
you have
while to get
anything?
here.
Yeah.
No, it's taken us a long time to get here. So that's why we want to kind of share our tips and stuff like that. So we're going to put the tips that we talked about today up on the video for you guys. We'll also drop it in the description as well. We also did talk about Ed Mylett a little bit and a couple other books, Women Who Rise and The Qualified Sales Leader. Those are great, great books to get started in. We'll drop those links in the description for you as well. But moreover, Thank you guys for being good listeners. Please subscribe, share this out, send this to your friends. We have, we're going to try to drop these every Friday. I know we have a couple people asking when these drop. Our best bet is to always drop them on Fridays, so you know when new ones are coming out. So continue giving us your feedback. We look forward to connecting with you personally on Instagram page. But yeah, have a good week, you guys. We'll talk to you next time.